Good morning, everybody. This is the Happy Camper. Today we're going to be talking about keeping chickens hydrated. All right, well, so like I said, today we're talking about keeping chickens and roosters hydrated. We've gone through a lot of different options. Just trying to figure out what works best. I just want to run by you guys everything we've experienced, what works and what hasn't worked for us. When we started looking for ways to keep our chickens hydrated, it was overwhelming. There's so many options and it's hard to know. So what we did is we started with some of the lower cost units, and then we started seeing what works, doesn't work, and we even tried some low-tech solutions. The last one we bought that is the winner out of everything that we've tried is this one. This one's called the Producer's Pride. We bought it for $13.99. Love the price. It is really similar to this one, but it has these little legs, and that has made a world of difference. I'm not sure if they're just built better, but it is hard, just like this one. This one currently has water in it, but you have to remove the top, flip it over, fill it with water. So that part's not great, but it hasn't leaked. As you can see here, it is almost full of water, and the water's not just dumping out. And because it has 3 feet, it raises it up so it's easier for the chickens to get their water. And we could also just find some rocks, some pieces of wood or whatever per leg to get it level. And we've been able to get it level easier because of that. So that made all the difference. It's just a minor modification here. It has some legs, and I don't know. It's a different company. So this has been the winner for us. We have 3 of these now. The capacity is 1 gallon, and I fill it up once every 4 days. That one I filled up 3 days ago, and it still looks half full. And the other chicken coop looks like it still has plenty as well. The chickens are getting all the water that they need, and it's not leaking out. So to compare, these I was having to check sometimes multiple times per day just to see if it got tipped over, just to see if this wasn't perfectly level and everything leaked out, just to see if too much poop got into these. And I was so tired of it, you know, I just about given up. So we do have more to try. There's so many options. If you go to tractorsupply.com, you'll see there's a lot of different options, but I just wanted to give you guys a tip. The Producer's Pride, the one that's blue, $13.99. I did see one for $15.99 that had a pointed tip, and that would reduce the chances that the chickens roost on it. In fact, maybe it'll eliminate the ability for the chickens to roost on it. One of the first things that we use, because we had baby chicks, is this little one. This one runs $8 at Tractor Supply Co. It's really simple. You just unscrew. In fact, all these have a similar premise. You unscrew, fill it with water, and you put it this way, screw it back together, and then there's a little hole on the feeder side. So when you flip it over, the water comes up, and once the water gets to a certain level, the water stops flowing. This worked out great. I mean, we raised our baby chicks in our living room. I wouldn't recommend it. We had layers of blankets covering everything. But, you know, in a house where everything's gonna be relatively flat, this works out pretty good. But the chickens got bigger and we got more chickens, and so that wasn't a good solution anymore. Next, we bought this one here. This is the Harris Farms 3.5 gallon. This one was $22.99, so it was a significant price increase over this one, which was $8. It's the same premise, but it works a little differently. So you twist and remove, and then you fill it with water this way. So you put it on a flat surface. Now for us, that's been a challenge because we don't have a lot of flat surface out here. So, and then it's also a challenge once it's full of water, you either have to look at it to line it up or try and hold it while balancing so that you can look at it. And believe me, this is much harder when it's full of water. You're definitely gonna spill some when you're going through that process. Once you got it locked in place, you wanna smoothly but quickly turn it back over. It starts to fill up. There's a spout right there. Once it reaches a certain level, it stops. One of the good things about them is multiple chickens can't be next to each other. And so it helps with preventing fighting. Now, this is not a flat surface on top. It is a dome shape, but the chickens can roost on here. And once they do that, they poop, and the poop can drip down into their water source. So that hasn't been ideal, but this dome shape hasn't been as big of a problem for that. Now, the issue with this one is, like I said, we don't have a lot of flat ground on where we are housing our chickens. And so I was trying to use rocks and stuff to keep it perfectly flat. And no matter what I tried, it would leak out. And when it starts to leak out, it gets their area wet, which means they're muddy, and it starts to mix with their feces and all that. That gets really gross. But also, they run out of water really quickly. They could run out of water in 2 hours, you know, if it's overflowing and dripping. And of course, you want it to last 2-3 days, ideally, so you can go away for the weekend if you want to. Okay, so when this wasn't working out, I couldn't figure out why until finally I asked somebody, and they said it has to be perfectly flat. Something must be wrong with this unit, because even though it's perfectly flat, it's still been leaking. So we just went to the Dollar Tree and we got this little bucket. This worked for us for a while, but it has its own challenges. Now, the good news is it was $1. The bad news is that you fill it up and they like to perch on it and they tip it over, right? And if they do that within 15 minutes of you putting fresh water in there, unless you're checking on it every hour, they're gonna go without water for the whole day. So that was a problem. I learned that I could put it towards the corner of the chicken coop, and that helped prevent it from tipping over when they roosted on it. But sometimes they would go to sleep and they would poop in here. So that was a problem. But if those two things weren't happening, then you got enough water in here for a couple days for, you know, 5-6 chickens. The other issue was that mosquito larvae started to show up in the water, and of course, the mold started building up. Mold? The green stuff. The green stuff started to build up in there. So I found myself having to empty it every 2 days, rinse it out, and then refill it, and then maybe they'll tip it or they'll poop in it. And so this was not an ideal solution either. We were getting more and more chickens, so we thought, hey, let's get a bigger one. And this one is a little bit different. It doesn't disconnect from the base. It's permanently installed in there. And there is no awkward twisting. You could fill it from the top. So I thought, hey, if we do that, maybe we won't have leaking problems. The first thing I'll note about it is it's got the green stuff built up in it, and it's kind of more difficult to clean. You know, you can't stick your hand in there, but maneuvering and all that isn't easy. Number two, the top handle is flat. It's perfect for a chicken or a rooster to sit there and poop. I left this unclean on purpose. They've been pooping on it for a while. And if it's the runny poop, or even if it's the clumpy poop, it goes into their water source, which that's a big problem. And the reservoir is quite big. This is a 5-gallon. This one is made by Farm Tough. It's 5-gallon top fill. It was $41.99 at Tractor Co. They have so many options. We just kept going back to Tractor Co and trying different things. But yeah, this one was hard to clean. It still spilled over. We were trying to use rocks, but it's a relatively flat surface. So even if you're a little bit off, I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it would just leak all over the place. And then it has some crevices you can't get to because it's permanently installed. And so it was difficult to keep clean. So we had just about given up, and we were just dealing with this solution because it was cheap and it gave us about the same amount of problems as these other solutions. And we had looked at some other options. There is one that is called Over Easy. It's a 12-gallon. It's quite big. It's rectangular shape, and it has kind of like some things that the chickens push with their beak, and it releases the water. Those were running $79.99, and I did see them on sale for 10 or 15 bucks off. But I didn't purchase it because I also found 3 or 4 of them in the clearance section because they had been returned. So I was like, if they're being returned, then maybe they don't work very well. And I asked my neighbor, and he said that the tip where the chickens push to get the water out, it can break, and then your water just all leaks out. The other thing that makes me hesitant about a 12-gallon water feeder is that 12 gallons will take a long time for the amount of chickens that we have to drink. So that means it's longer for everything to get green and moldy. And my guess is by the time they've gone through 4 gallons, I'll be dumping everything out and cleaning it out. So that one doesn't seem like a good solution for us. If you have a lot of chickens though, the 12-gallon might be a good solution. They also make a bunch of spouts. Spouts that you could drill a hole into a bucket and attach and screw from the back, and it has a rubber seal. And I don't know anything about those, but I saw some for $29.99. I saw some for $13.99, and they look like they're different styles. So maybe down the line, we'll try some of those out, and I can give you guys my feedback on how those work. Keeping chickens hydrated is really important. If they go without water for too long, their egg production goes down, and if you're trying to breed them, you know, getting fertilized eggs is a little bit harder. So keep that in mind. The more we can automate keeping them fed and hydrated and keeping them safe and warm, it's a little more comfortable for us. Some other time, I'm gonna do a review of one of the other chicken coops, and then I also gonna review our feeding system. We finally found a good feeding system that had its own challenges that we've overcome pretty well. All right, cool. That's all I got for you today. I hope that this was informative and helpful. Have a fantastic rest of your day.